Hi everybody, it's Honest John again. Now, full disclosure, let me start off with that. I'm an atheist. I grew up a Catholic. I attended Catholic school. I was an altar boy. I went to Providence College, which is a Catholic college, where I was required to take several semesters of theology. And I also spent a year in the seminary studying to become a priest. So I grew up pretty much steeped in my religion. So with all that exposure to religion, how did I become an atheist? Well, it starts with history. There was a whole lot of stuff that I learned about the Catholic Church that they should have taught me, but they didn't. I had to learn it from other sources. Things like the Crusades and the Inquisition and the really checkered history of many of our popes. Like I said, they should have taught me those things. And they should have answered the questions that arose, but they didn't. I learned them from other places. And so once you start questioning the institution, then you start questioning its teachings. So it was only a small step from there to starting to question the basis of the whole thing, which is God. And once that happens and you start taking a look at God, well, there's all kinds of contradictions, you know. All-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful. And yet, this all-loving creature can condemn people to an eternity of suffering. And, I mean, there's just a whole lot of other things. He says, this almighty, all-loving, all-knowing creature is really pretty petty. And I just can't get behind him. Now, there's also the scientific evidence, and I'm not going to minimize that. It's big and it's important. But the fact is that the God of the Bible and other holy books is just, he just doesn't measure up. That's right, God. You've been weighed and found wanting. So here's what I would do differently if I were God. I would begin by signing my work. If I created the universe, it would have my signature on it. There would be a constellation that would spell out my name in the sky for everybody to see. Or maybe I'd put it on some mountains or something like that. But I would have left no doubt that it was me that did all this creating. Also, if it were just about the people here on Earth, then I wouldn't have wasted a lot of time and credit creating a universe which is, for all we know, possibly infinite. Why do that if it's about the people right here? And I would have put Earth in the center of the universe, not just made it look like it was. It would be the center of things. And if I had created everything as it is, I would not be misleading people by putting in a fossil record and making people think that there was this thing called evolution. And I wouldn't allow evolution to happen. I wouldn't allow microorganisms to evolve either. I mean, evolution as far as in plants and animals takes a long, long time. But in microorganisms, it doesn't take hardly any time at all. So, how can you expect people to not believe in evolution when it's happening all the time? So if I were God, you wouldn't need a flu shot every year. The virus that comes out this year would be exactly the same as the first flu virus that I created. And if I were God, human beings would still be in the Garden of Eden too. I wouldn't have left an apple unguarded to tempt them. Or at least I would have taken the time to warn Adam and Eve about Satan. And I might have, if I did leave an apple around that I didn't want anybody to have, I would have put an alarm on it. And speaking of Satan, if I were God, the angels wouldn't have fallen. I would have anticipated that there were problems brewing and maybe negotiated a settlement that would have left everybody happy. And if I were God, it wouldn't have taken 40 years for the Hebrews to get from Egypt to Israel either. I mean, have you looked at the map? They're right next to each other. And while I was at it, while I was out there in the desert, I would have made the Ten Commandments quite a bit different. I mean, I would have left out the part about coveting and all that, because it's natural for people to want what they want, what other people have. I wouldn't have made a sin out of it. But I would have made some changes. The fourth commandment wouldn't say, honor your father and mother. It would say, honor your children. And there would have been a commandment that said, thou shalt not own slaves. And another one that said, thou shalt not fuck with people who are different than you. In the original translation of the Ten Commandments, there is a prohibition against boiling a kid, which is a baby goat, in his mother's milk. Now, if I were God, I would not have bothered with all that dietary advice. Eat what you want. I wouldn't tell people how to dress. I wouldn't tell people whether or not to grow a beard. And I certainly would not require circumcision. And I drop in from time to time and see how things are going. It's been almost 2,000 years since we've had a visit from God. I'd stop by. I'd take a look around. I'd try to fix a few things, maybe try to help the poor. I'd suggest that we stop wrecking the fucking planet. And I'd try to prevent the wars that we keep having. And while I was here, I would make it a point to go on all the news programs all over the world and let people know who I am and what I'm all about. So there wouldn't be all these religions arguing about who I am and what I want. As a matter of fact, there would be no religions at all, because I would ban them. I would not allow anybody to scam people out of their money in my name and do bad things claiming that it was for me. I would tell all the religious leaders to go find honest work. So, all in all, I think I'd make a pretty good God. Let's face it, the God or gods, if you prefer, that we have today, they just ain't cutting it. Thanks for listening.